Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Now, last week, Tuesday, we brought you full details of some of the leading issues surrounding the frequent collapse of the nation's national grid, with experts driving discussions from all fronts. A breakdown on the interwoven synergy of the three components in the power production chain of generation, distribution, and transmission, and how activities of bandits and other elements now contribute to the collapse and instability of the national grid. Now, Tuesday Live still intends to sustain conversation with key players in the nation's power industry, focusing on national grid collapses. But before we get into the conversation proper, let's get to see this report put together by power correspondent Joshua Ojito.
A turbulent moment for the Nigeria's power sector as the national grid experiences disturbances disrupting electricity supply nationwide. In fact, only this year, the grid collapsed more than 10 times, raising concerns on its reliability to power the economy.
The issue of system disturbance, which people normally call system collapse, is a very serious issue, and TCN has been trying to make sure that it's reduced to minimum. For example, if a transmission line is down, meaning that maybe either bundles or by accident somebody pull a tower, that tower will swing and it will bring system collapse. Or for example, one of the generators that is generating power may be generating 200 or 300 megawatts, and suddenly there is a fault in that machine, and that machine went out, the frequency will swing and the system will collapse. So there are a lot of things, or even you are generating, but people are not consuming what you are generating. That means there is no equilibrium, no balance in the system. That can cause system disturbances. So what TCN is doing all it can to make sure that we address that issue to the minimum.
The difficult situation requires desperate and the Power Minister Adebayo Adelabu quickly constituted a committee to dig deep into causes of frequent collapse of the national grid. Investigation completed and report submitted to the minister. Short, medium and long-term recommendations proffered to end frequent grid collapses.
We believe that if we start the process, look at the short term and begin to take steps towards ensuring that our grid is more reliable and stable, I believe that we'll get a bit of support.
It's not going to be business as usual. It's a report that we must take seriously. It's a report that all of us must put our hands together and give support to whatever implementation timeline that we have agreed at the end of this meeting. And I can tell you that Mr. President is very much interested in the outcome of this particular exercise. It's not just another committee. It's a committee that can actually support us in writing history of this sector, in bringing back the glory of this ministry and its agencies, and in proving to the outside world that we're capable, that we're competent of reversing this ugly trend.
While the nation awaits quick implementation of the recommendations, it is expected that the quick win solutions will ensure a stable grid that will restore customers' confidence in the sector. Joshua Ojito.
That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. We'll start off by introducing our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Engineer Abdulkader Gwaram Adamu. He's General Manager, Material Control and Stores Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening.
We'd also like to welcome Engineer Mrs. Jane Neka Okemini, General Manager, Monitoring and Evaluation, TCN. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We're also joined tonight by Professor Magnus Onoha, President, Governing Council, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Cyril.
And we have also here tonight a former Managing Director, CEO of the Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, and a consultant now a consultant power infrastructure, Idris Mohammed. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thank you for having me, Cyril.
Right. Well, as is the nature of this program, at some point in time, you can join in the conversation. But when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedures. But for now, let's begin to look at the issues at stake. We started this conversation last week. We looked at so many causes, and we had quite a number of people joining and identified so many things. But be that as it may, this evening we'll continue this conversation, and one of the fallouts of what might be termed the recent crisis in the power sector, the frequent collapse of the national grid, is of course the setting up of an in-house committee by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, which manages the, and this was mainly to address some of the issues to find out why. Now, it turns out that from the committee's work, there are some weaknesses in the transmission line, which you say has to be addressed immediately. So let's start off by asking, what are those identified weaknesses, and how do you intend to address them in the interim and in the long run? Let's begin with Engineer Abdul Qadir Gwaram Adam.
Thank you, Cyril. Good evening once again. The interim committee that was set up by the management of TCN is a fallout of the intersectoral committee that was set up by the minister, and which they have presented their report to him, as we have seen in the initial report. And most of the issues, because that committee is a very powerful committee comprising of powerful members from TCN, from NAC, and from the Ministry of Power. And they have gone around and they came up with a report. And quite okay, they have stated the short-term, medium-term, and the long-term solutions that they have identified. And from that one, also the TCN internally started, to make sure that those identified, recommendations of that report were being implemented based on the directions of the Honorable Minister. That is why the first thing I would like to say is that currently, since on Sunday, the ED TSP, together with some of the GMs in the transmission sector, are in the field. Like currently, the ED TSP is in Oshogbo. He is undertaking the inspection of the transmission lines in that sector. The GM Transmission Services is in Benin. He's also going, because he is also there. Another GM is in Jeba, also, inspecting all those lines to see, because those three axes are the nodes that were identified in the committee, that, the power swing, the high voltages, start from there. So both the collapse of 14th and 19th, they all centered around that area. So that is why it was very important, and the minister insisted that, they have to go and bring, a first-hand solution, because it has been identified that there is a problem there. So this high-powered, they have to go and make sure that, all those things are identified first-hand, and they are still there. So that one, they have identified so far from our communication with them. They have, identified a lot of issues, most especially the latching tape from the optic fiber that we have always been complaining because of aging. They have been there for more than 20 years, and it's like they are filling up, and when they fill up, they will now like bridge the line, and you know it causes some trippings. And also another issue that was also discovered was you know, the high voltage is supposed to be suppressed by reactors. And the reactor in Jaba became faulty, and there are some areas also that were identified from the report that there need to be some reactors that will suppress the high voltage, like in Gamo, like in that Jaba again, Gamo, Gwagwalada. You know, these are areas that these reactors were needed. And as a matter of urgency, the management of TCN have deployed reactors now. Already, even contractors were, you know, awarded on emergency to move some reactors from our project sites that may take a little time before they are completed. Because this is not, you know, we did not start, let's say, the procurement process of these reactors now. Already we have identified more than a year ago that there are issues there, but the procurement process takes some time. So already we have 4 number reactors that are in the process of being procured, but because it may take a little time and because of the urgency, that's why we are deploying, you know, from our project site. One is going to be taken to Gwagwalada, and the other one is going to be taken to Jaba as a matter of urgency. So those ones are also, you know, on the way. It is already, the process has started, and the movement has already started also.
All right, thank you so much. Quite a number of issues arising from this, but we'll come back to them later on. But let's go over to Engineer Jane Neka Kemini, who is GM Monitoring and Evaluation of TCN, and easily for many Nigerians, say, assess for us at this point in time the state of the grid.
Thank you very much, Christopher. What really happened is that the state of the grid, you know, the stakeholders that manages this grid, that's the generation, the transmission, and the distribution. Yes, there has been issues in terms of this grid management, which we have been which we have been stating all along, that there should be a centralized standard protection, relay coordination. Because, you know, the issue of grid collapse or grid disturbance can come from either of the three. It can be from the generators, it can be from the transmission, it can be from distribution. Imagine where a tripping comes from the generation, motors tripping, and the lines. The lines are not supposed to trip before the generation motors, because if there is a standard protection, the relay coordination, yes, TCN cuts across the whole nation. We have interface with DISCO, we have interface with GENCOs. So if there is a standardized protection, relay coordination, I think we'll get, it will be in a better position than what we are seeing now. Though we have been advocating for that, but, you know, like my colleague Adamu said, there are a lot of issues that we are looking at now. We are trying to look in depth to understand what is really happening in the grid. And the experts we have in transmission, they are all in the field with the field workers. I want you to understand that, like the EDTSP now, they are moving from one tower to the other. It's not as if they are going on general patrol now. No, no, no. They are moving from one tower to the other to bring out the weaknesses on our line, to do a thorough patrol and bring out the weaknesses on our line. And along the line, they are having discussions with the community. We call it stakeholders engagement, which is key for us to have a synergy with them. Though we have been doing that, but because of the turbulence in the grid now, the high-powered experts are now moving from tower to tower. They are bringing out the weaknesses, and along the line, they are clearing it as they are moving. We also have a set of engineers that are doing our asset management status. They are going from substation to substation to understand the extent of the obsolete equipment we have, because you will be managing, maintaining. At the end of the day, the havoc it causes cannot be quantified. Like it was the explosion that caused the first grid collapse on the 14th of October. So what they are doing now is to take stock of our assets and ensure that we now understand the quantum of the obsolete ones we have, the redundancy we have in the station, and ensure that all the equipment are operational and properly monitored. Like as a monitoring and evaluation GM, yes, we normally have our Wednesdays, every Wednesday, conference meeting with each of the regional managers, the GMTs will be there. We discuss issues affecting the system. But right now, we are going in depth so that after the asset assessment, we will now know which one can we afford to manage for now, and which one are we supposed to change immediately and avoid this great turbulence that we've been experiencing recently.
All right, thank you so much. And again, the issues are being highlighted, and we'll take an in-depth look at them as we go on. But let's hear the views of Professor Magnus Onoha, who's President of the Governing Council of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance. And, you know, from your alliance, a key word there is efficiency. That has been missing for some time in our energy requirements, hasn't it?
Yeah, thank you, Cyril. When I listened attentively to the first two speakers, I also watched the countenance of the Minister of Power, that the committee is not going to be business as usual. And I asked this question: have we X-rayed, interrogated the risk analysis? Have we done a thorough risk analysis about why is the grid collapsing every year? Why are we reactive at any point in time instead of being proactive? So I said, okay, since it's not going to be business as usual, I look forward to seeing, extracting the risk analysis. What is it that has made this, grid to be collapsing year in, year out? One, I know that he mentioned the obsolete technology, okay? That's a risk. The infrastructure gap, a whole lot of it. I also refuse to understand. We're in COP29 now. We're in Baku discussing the climate issues. There's a climate risk. Most of those equipments have been exposed to the vagaries of weather. Okay, and we've not really taken time to do an in-depth risk analysis. Before we talk about the SWOT analysis she mentioned, the strength, weaknesses, and opportunities. It is very, very important as a nation, You know, Nigerian electricity is urban bias. This great thing, until it's an urban phenomenon. The rural area doesn't have the effect. And that's why we advocated in 2015, renewable energy policy, that let it be a rural phenomenon, that 80% of rural areas don't have access to electricity, so it's an off-grid. So my worry is that it's an on-grid thing, that's why. So let us interrogate the risk. As that's number one starting point, okay? And by the time we do it, as the committee, now, by the time we to say these are 10 risk analysis, we x-ray it, they will do the SWOT we talked about. Until we do that, as a nation, let's for one day be proactive. Not after time when everybody is grandstanding. That is, it is not, at this point in time, in the EU, where, you know, just came back 2 months ago, this grid system is integrated. One day, there's a power outage in Belgium. France is there to show it up. There's an element of integration. So we can't be talking about this. I mean, it's unheard of. We can look forward to having a grid system that is integrated. We're in six geopolitical zones, so to speak. Look, I look forward, let's interrogate the risk, and we put it on the table and draw SWOT analysis. And we'll take it from there. Honestly, I can't. Every year, look at it, year in, year out. So it is what I'm saying. What I'm saying, in fact, is that I look forward to the committee going beyond the usual to have a 1 or 2 months. Can we have an interrogation? That the stakeholder talking about stakeholder phenomenon is when you don't carry the. You talked about vandalism. When you don't let the people, the insecurity and all that, and you don't put a guard, a safeguard towards it, of course, it will continue to be a dominant factor. So that's why I'm saying that, please, one of the takeaways of this today or this evening Tuesday Live is we are advocating for X-ray and bringing to the table the risk analysis. What is it that is making this thing to be recurring? So that at the end of the day, we'll now sit back and say, okay, can we look at the strength, the weaknesses, and opportunities, and take it from there, move forward. Thank you.
All right, as identified already, the challenges cut across both the generation, transmission, and distribution. And of course, with us here on tonight's discussion is one who has played an active role in the distribution, and that's speaking of the former MD of Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company. And good enough, you today are a consultant on power infrastructure. Now, each time we hear about aging equipment and the need to replace some, and obsolete technology, the first thing we think about is these are things that could have been seen a long time ago, and at least you would have a fair idea of the lifespan of whatever equipment you're using. But it seems as if everything came upon us suddenly, from generation to transmission down to distribution.
Thank you, Cyril. And what we have heard from my colleagues, transmission, and professor, who talked about risk analysis, which ought to have been a major area of assessment. I would say my own addition to the whole discussion is the transmission that I know for over 25 years is not the transmission that we have today. And before, there is, from planning point of view, there is coordination within, first of all, the transmission section that enables each department to be able to review its areas of operation and then make its observations on critical areas of needs to be put on the table. Each department does that assessment, puts that assessment on the table, and then management's attention overall is drawn to those critical areas of need that would adversely affect the smooth operation of transmission company operations. And with such report, management will now also, on its part, assess the situation, analyze the risk, and then make a budgetary provision for replacement of equipment that have been identified that are due for replacement. Are those kind of things, those exercises, are they taking place at the moment? If those exercises are taking place at the moment, I'm sure issues of old, obsolete, weak transmission equipment ought to have been addressed by now. Now, part of what needs to be done that is critical to maintaining smooth operations of the transmission section is to make sure that those critical areas are identified. Why is it that those issues of weak and obsolete transmission equipment are major issues of concern? Now, in terms of coordination between the distribution and the generation, I know there is a stakeholders meeting, and that takes place just the way from the transmission end that each department makes an assessment of its areas of weaknesses that requires urgent management attention. These three sectors of the power value chain, the transmission, the distribution, and the generation, from the old company that I know, they always have that meeting. They bring up issues that when those issues are not addressed, it will have its negative consequence on the overall performance of either transmission, where it is transmission, distribution, where it is transmission, or generation, where it is generation. Now, the good part of it is generation has been partially concessioned, and then distribution has been partially privatized. Now, the only company that is yet to be either concessioned or privatized is the transmission company. Therefore, I think what is key is that the planning aspect that ought to be a major concern is not being put in its proper perspective. And then also, from the management point of view, management is supposed to be proactive. Now, if management is not proactive, you won't expect anything good to come out of transmission company of Nigeria. I know that every year there is what you call technical audit. That technical audit is supposed to be principally for equipment, for transmission equipment. And that technical audit will normally give you the actual details, the true status of those transmission equipment. Is that annual exercise that is key to maintaining smooth, effective transmission services? Is it still existing? Do we really have engineers that carry out this technical audit of this equipment to determine the true status of those equipment? If that is not being done, then to say that there is no reason the equipments are old, they are aged, they are rickety, I think that's a blame game. That's a blame game. So my position is from the point of view of what ought to be done is not being done. That's from the point of view of the workforce. And then on the part of management, the critical reviews that is required to take management decision, critical management decision to avert system collapse and grid disturbance is not in place. And unless at this particular point, I speak with pain in my heart that in this country where we have seasoned engineers, brilliant engineers, committed engineers who work night and day to provide effective dynamic transmission services all over the country, is becoming a difficult task to achieve. Well, we need to sit up.
All right. In addition to the discussion in the studio, we have a number of reports which also speak to the issues at stake. We'll start taking them now. Our first report tonight is from Oshogbo.
Nigeria's power control outbeat is at the National Control Center in Oshogbo, and from here, electricity generated by various power plants is coordinated, balanced, and distributed to millions of homes and businesses across the country. Despite the critical role Oshogbo plays, the strain of collapsed Nigeria's grid multiple times this year due to vandalism and other challenges have been evident, as millions have been left without power for hours, sometimes days.
It has been very, very terrible in the last 4 weeks, 2 months, since we have started having this grid collapse. That is what we've been experiencing here in the state capital in Osun State.
It's getting worse and worse because every day the grid is collapsing. We have boxed ourselves into a corner, which is rather unfortunate.
While they say infrastructure struggles to keep up, they express that lack of future plan by past administrations is at the heart of these challenges.
When Nigeria was planning for power supply, we don't have a 200 million population, probably about 50 million or below. That was the plan. And we have the same old facilities serving this population to problems that we've been seeing that will occur over 50 years ago. And you want just immediate solutions to it. It doesn't happen. We need to plan over time.
You can't have these facilities and not maintain them. Look, go to the power center. We call it power line. If you were young when you saw when it was constructed, you will know that it's not the same thing now. These things, even we human beings who can regenerate, our body system collapse. Not to talk of facilities that are static and is being powered every day.
Mr. Felix Chika spent 35 years in the power sector, and for him, the National Control Center in Oshogbo should be decentralized to avoid always putting many states in blackout when grid collapses.
A major factor is low investment in the area. Another factor which I feel is important is that our system is too centralized. It is too centralized. You don't expect to distribute power to 200 million Nigerians from a source. I hope you know that all powers generated come to Shubu here before it gets out to other places. Just a single point. Some of the opinion that the thing should be decentralized so that states, for example, thank God that there's this deregulation policy now, so your states can try to have their own distribution networks so as to help the system. There should that arrangement to make sure that it is broken into regional and sub-regional level so that the thing can function properly. This state can have their own power plant. Even with Oshogbo River, yeah, I'm telling you.
As Oshogbo continues to power the nation, the path it takes could determine the reliability of electricity for millions of Nigerians. In Oshogbo, Femi Afariogun.
From Oshogbo, we go over to Uyo for our next report.
It is no longer news that Nigeria's national grid has collapsed 8 times in 2024, with blackouts and other disruptions becoming setbacks for Nigerians in the quest for better socio-economic lives. But sometimes now, many Nigerians across various strata are engaging in conversations targeted at finding ways out of the quagmire. This situation, according to some Uyo residents, is different as they enjoy above 20 hours power supply per day.
We do have light, 23 hours. Light is very okay in my area, here in Akwema Estate.
Definitely, NEPA have tried for now because they used to give us light.
The power supply is quite good. No, very good actually. Say we boast of about maybe 20 hours, 19 to 20 hours per day.
A major stakeholder in the power sector in Nigeria is calling for a shift in the sector where obsolete equipment are replaced with new global devices durable to stand the test of time.
If you don't put in money, what do you expect at the other end? They say in computer you garbage in and you garbage out. You put 1 billion naira, the other end you may see 1.3 billion naira. That's the other one as profit coming in. And people must run the power's infrastructures according to engineering standards, engineering economy.
The managing director of Ibom Power Company Limited, Menyene Tukudo, profiles huge financial investment in the power sector as a way out of the national grid collapse, which he says is epileptic due to aging infrastructure. But avoiding mere rhetorics and lip services, how serious should the nation address the power sector challenges?
Is to go on subsystems, what we call subsystem. In Nigerian state, we can minimize the system collapse by not focusing on NCC.
As stakeholders still hope for a positive change in the power sector with an improvement in the daily average supply, which hovers around 4,500 megawatts in recent times. The creation of regional grids to feed the electricity needs of 6 geopolitical zones may be a possible way as recommended. In Uyo, Kevin Samuel.
And from Uyo, we go on to Mina, where this report comes from.
Nicknamed as the power state because it hosts 4 hydroelectric dams, contribute significantly to the national grid. With its contribution and other sources of power in the country, Nigerians still experience insufficient power supply, which experts in the power industry blame on insufficient supply of gas to the power plants, aging infrastructures, and the recent vandalization of transmission lines by terrorist groups.
Stakeholders in the power sector in Niger State, most of who spoke off camera, attribute the recent blackouts in parts of the country, especially some northern states, to the activities of terrorists who vandalized some of the distribution lines that evacuates electricity from some hydro dams in Niger State to other parts of the country.
There was vandalization that happens along Kaduna, Shiroro Kaduna transmission line. The power that is being generated at Shiroro, of course, there is a link between Jeba and Kayenji to Shiroro. So the towers that carried power or evacuate power from Shiroro to Kaduna, which now transmit to the northern part of the country, 2 towers were actually affected, Tower 132 and Tower 136. And, it was vandalized, and that seriously affected the transmission line. And of course, that is enough to cut off power supply to the northern part of the country. And because of security reasons, they could not restore the line immediately. So there is another line, a double line circuit from Agwaji, Apia, 33 kVA line. So that is the only route that can take power from these axes to the northern part of the country, particularly north-east and north-west, down to Niger. That line too, the 2 line had issues.
They also identified human factor as one of the reasons responsible for the recent national grid collapse.
Technology is taking care of a lot of things now. Look at it. We have drones that can monitor the lines. You don't need to patrol the lines with linemen and security people. These drones can monitor the lines for you and even do some actions to take control of some of those challenges. The transmission network himself is also weak.
Although Niger State was not adversely affected by the recent national grid collapses, most of the northern states were seriously affected. Emina Mukhtar Owu.
Well, those reports also highlight the issues involved, and back here in the studio, there are just 1 or 2 issues which we might raise arising from those reports. And this is in terms of the equipment, replacement of equipment. But we seem to recall that during the last administration, some super transformers were told, I think 10 of them, and mobile substation transformers were delivered from Germany. It was meant to boost the national grid and help, eliminate this matter of frequent grid collapse. What's the status of those equipment? Have they integrated into the system? Are they still there? Or have they made any difference?
Yes, Cyril, that's one of the things that you have to realize and people have to appreciate about this country. Like all those transformers that came in from FGN Power, that the Siemens intervention, most of them, I think up to 60 to 70% of them have been commissioned.
Right.
And I will also use this opportunity to tell you, from the 13th of January this year alone to the 9th of November this year, we have commissioned, TCN have commissioned, not the Siemens intervention, TCN itself, we have commissioned up to 41 transformers, 41 brand new power transformers, 1760 MVA, 1760 MVA, 1600 MVA power transformers, 5 150 MVA 330 kV transformers, 1 number 187.5 MVA, and 1 number 300 MVA transformers. These ones have been commissioned from the 13th of January to this, and we have commissioned 2 reactors. The last one was yesterday. We commissioned it. So, and you see, FGN Power are commissioning. Niger Delta Power, they are doing something. Even NNDC, there is some intervention from NNDC in the power sector. But you see, we are reconductoring. We have awarded 25 number lines to be reconducted. It has been awarded. The work is ongoing. This 25 number, these are transmission lines that were commissioned maybe at the inception of NEPA at that time, maybe some 40 years ago, 30 years ago. We are now reconducting them with these high temperature, low sag, conductors that will now improve double or sometimes even triple the capacity of the lines. All these jobs are ongoing. And massive, if you now, for example, just take a 60 MVA transformer now. A 60 MVA transformer costs nothing less than $2 to $2.5 million. So if you look at the quantum and the amount of money that is being spent, not only by TCN as an agency, but other agencies of government, you find that really it's not that nothing is being done. It's not that new infrastructures are not being brought into the system. Like as of today, yesterday, we take consignment in the stores at Ojo, and even up till tomorrow or next tomorrow, if you go there, you will see containers. We are uploading 45 containers of like 10 number 330 kV circuit breakers and 20 number 132 kV circuit breakers. They are being, right now, if you go, you will see them. So, and this is a continuous process. But when you have a system that you are talking of, let's say, more than 8,100 kilometers of 330 kV line, and maybe 8,500 kilometers of 132 kV lines, these are huge numbers. If you look at the transformers that we have in the system, and if you look at the number of years that this investment or let's say were not done, there was some time that there was not even appropriation or budgetary allocation. Like if you look at maybe, let's say, last year or this year, what was the amount that was budgeted for power infrastructures? So you find that all these are issues. Not that nothing is being done, but quite okay, we know that the amount of money that is needed to input into the transmission sector for it to be revived. Go and check any country that you want to compare it with Nigeria and see the amount of money they are pumping into their into the system there. So the government is doing. We are also trying, but we know that it takes all the stakeholders to reach the promised land. But it's not that nothing is being done. But
I might just ask at this point here, from the investigative work that's been carried out by a high-powered team of your engineers, at any point in time, do you suspect in-house sabotage?
No. No.
Okay. But what we've seen, particularly in the case of the very recent one, the tower that was brought down along, I think, Lokoja Gwagwalada, which is done, it's been attributed to the work of vandals who have brought down those lines. And last week, interestingly, one of the things we heard was that those who bring down the stars just do it for the sake of disrupting the system. They don't take anything of it. And, well, in the reports we've heard here, people have said perhaps it's time to introduce technology into monitoring. They talked about drones and all that, instead of relying on manual monitoring. What do you say to that?
What you said is well taken. At this point, we'll need to go into technology, recent technologies, to do certain things we need to do to keep our grid up. I want to let Nigerians understand that all the then PHCN activities, we carry it out. We have a unit called the technical auditors. They are engineers. They go for that routine. And it is based on their report that we are even doing what we are doing. It is based on their report that those equipment they mention that this one is obsolete, we start working on it. But I want you to understand that it takes a long time for these equipment to come in. Take, for instance, we want to bring in new transformers, we want to bring in breakers. What we'll do is, when the specifications are given, you know the new Procurement Act now is the lowest responsive bidder. We have issues with that.
Some Nigerians have questioned that as well. And
Yes,
said,
we
look,
have
the
issues
lowest
with that.
And
the lowest
not necessarily
responsive bidder.
the most appropriate or
Let
the
me give you
most
an
qualitative.
example. In terms of the breakers, we don't go to China for a 330 kV breaker because of the reliability. Do you understand me? So another thing is that this equipment, we go certify it good and it's coming in. It comes in and it is lying there at the port. We have to go through rigor for clearing. So there are certain things we pass through that is not for us to start shouting. We follow the procedure. But the procedure sometimes are cumbersome.
Prof, this sounds like policy issues as well.
Yes. Let me come in before the prof will say something. I want to make this clear to all of us. The recent collapse or disturbance is majorly insecurity in Nigeria. It's majorly insecurity. Like the Shiroro Mando, we can't just walk in there. That means you're walking into a pit to be buried. We were liaising with National Security Advisor's Office, that the people that even helped for army to come in and get things cleaned up before our men went in for work. The work there is in progress, yes. Why is it that immediately that Shiroro Mando happens, it's not too long, Uwajiapi happened. There are majorly insecurity.
And perhaps coordinated?
But I want you to understand that there is no insider in terms of that.
Okay. Yes, sure, you're right. It's all about policy and regulatory issues. You can dispense that as well. Just look at even the recently passed Electricity Act of 2023 has gone back to National Assembly for further amendment. So it's all about dynamism, you know. My take is, when you were doing your report, I have also identified 7 risk barrier challenges. 7 already. Even within the context of alliance, already we have identified 10. In fact, that's what we want to do. Well, you know, we seek to provide regulatory support services. The next type of solution-driven, that's the narrative now we're talking about. Let's be intentional. See what the German have read out. But in terms of KPIs, I'll be at a loss. They are doing a lot, but we're not seeing the impact. So where we have identified solution, this risk, challenges, barriers, let's be thinking about the solution. 1, this is the solution. This is the timeline between this and this. That is where you begin to track KPIs, impact, based on theory of change. Honestly. And that's why it's part of, it's not as if civil servants are not doing anything. They are doing a whole lot. But you need to come back. That's why I still go back to the minister. It's not going to be business as usual. Clap hands, get a report. What is in that report? That's my concern. So I want to say here that for the first time, tell Nigerians that, you know, what Cyril did, the reports, all the Jeba, Shiroro and all that. These are very impactful, very, very informative, and it's going to really arm the committee to do their work. So let's be very, very intentional, and this time around, when you have identified the risk, provide solutions and put it in the marketplace. Investment is very key. This sector has undergone underinvestment. You don't rule that about. Listen, power sector is the fulcrum. Power sector is the engine room of the economy. You don't treat it with levity. Honestly, you don't. And that's why, we are now divesting to renewables. I'm just coming there. Right. But you see, it's something that in energy mix, you need to get the mix, whether it's renewable or non-renewable. Have we identified, between GENCOs and DISCOs, you have not thought the eyes between GENCOs and DISCOs. There have been friction. It's a problem. So, and something that all this must be in a table, followed through, based on solution. What are the immediate, long-term, and short, medium, and long-term solution towards this? I think.
So I want to cut in here.
Yes.
I want to cut in here. I want us to understand that the hydro stations we have in Nigeria are majorly in the north central. And the thermal stations and the gas stations are in the southern part of Nigeria. That is why Ugwaji Api feeds northeast majorly, and Shiroro Mando feeds northwest. So now that we have problem, we are working on the Shiroro Mando. It's a double circuit line. We are feeding the northwest through Jos. And there is a limit to what the line can carry. So there is massive load shedding in that area. It's not as if there is that we are just leaving it as it is, treating it with levity. No. There is issue on renewable energy, majorly solar up north. Yes. The federal government of Nigeria has been working on that, but these are not things that will come up overnight. There is a plan for it. There is a studies that has been even carried out. There is what we call the Biwa solar farm. You know that? Yeah. That we have even made it, it is the Ministry of Power running it, made it clear that investors can come and invest. It is supposed to be a 1,000 1,250 megawatts solar plant. And the investors can come in and make a minimum of 100 megawatts for each of the plants. Do you understand me? So the federal government of Nigeria has been trying so hard to get things done. It's not as if people are snoring. No, we are working. And now the Electricity Act has even empowered the states to generate their own energy so that the grid will be like a backup for them. So we get there. When we present issues like this, it looks as if the engineers are not working. Some of us, our brain are working 24 hours. But there is a limit to what you can. You can't move faster than your shadow. You need to take it gradually and standardize it. So we are working, please. We are working, but there are some bottlenecks. Generally in government setting, there are bottlenecks that you need to overcome. And we have been working so hard to get things done. It is just that for power equipment we are talking about it's not something that you go off the shelf and get. It is produced. A manufacturer brings it in, and a manufacturer comes when he wins. If he's the most responsive bidder, they will start manufacturing. It takes some time.
My emphasis will always be on the lowest.
Lowest responsive bidder.
Because that to me smacks of not the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
But so that's why I brought up the question.
That is why we are here for us to talk, for Nigerians to appreciate our own point of view.
Absolutely.
That we are really working hard. Please, we are working hard. It pains me that that we are in a position where we are. no, we should move past this position, and we are working hard to get things done. My management is working hard. My management understands the policies, and we are working towards getting it done. You need to understand that power industry is not a constant a thing. It's changing, it's very dynamic. The load is growing every day. We need to run to meet up with the load growth. Are you understanding me? So for the yesterday that there is we are managing to get the demand and the supply to be equal. Now, most of the time, when you talk of overvoltage now, it means that the supply is higher than the demand. So when we talk of some of our industrial customers pumping in harmonics into the system, these are the things we need to manage with. Pumping in harmonics is not good for the grid. I hope I'm communicating.
Well, we'll return to that in just a moment, but at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, of course, there'll be more, and hopefully we'll take one or more reports. But more importantly, you will now have a chance to join in the conversation. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly. Thanks for staying with us. We can't stop talking about the power issues. Of course, as you heard earlier on, power is the engine room of the development of Nigeria's economy. And so this saying it has slowed things down is understating the effects that the country has had to go through with the interruptions and frequent disruptions to its power stability. But the question has been raised in this conversation about the three parts of it: the generation, the transmission, and the distribution, and the kind of relationship that exists among these units. So let's talk to a one-time distributor and see how would you describe the relationship between the GENCOs and the DISCOs, and not forgetting the side of the regulator.
Okay, the relationship that exists between the GENCOs, DISCOs, and transmission is actually a working gentleman's agreement. It is clear that system collapse must not happen, must not be allowed to happen. And therefore, the three stakeholders would have agreed on modalities that will avert system collapse or grid disturbance from taking place. Therefore, for instance, if the distributor is supposed to maintain a load of 3,500 megawatts, it must maintain that, and it must be transparent in maintaining that load of 3,500 megawatts. If it exceeds, it destabilizes the system. If it drops, it destabilizes the system. In the same way, the generation companies, they also have a limit that they must not exist, that they must not exceed. So therefore, for transmission company also, they maintain the balance. They maintain the balance that generation is supposed to sustain, DISCOs is supposed to sustain, just so as to maintain the grid stability and to avoid system collapse. So it's as simple as ABC, but the transparency in maintaining that mutually agreed working manual is a big issue. Therefore, they also agreed that a technology would be put in place to ensure that that rule is maintained. That's, they have what you call the under-frequency relay that is meant to check if the generator is exceeding, if the distributor is exceeding, just to make sure that they maintain that balance. The issue of the transparency in this operation is what needs to be checked, to be sustained, so that system collapse does not happen. But is that happening?
Yeah, but when you say a gentleman's agreement, would that be appropriate for such a critical sector as this?
Should I say, should I remove gentleman's agreement and say it is a rule?
Shouldn't it be?
It is a rule.
Well,
it's a rule. But that rule is mutually agreed between the transmission, the distribution, and the generation. It's not as if it is enforced on them. It is not enforced on them. But they are managing the grid. And that grid must not collapse. Therefore, there has to be a process that will ensure that the grid is stable, that the grid does not become unstable. Because once it becomes unstable, then you have system collapse. The cost of one system collapse, if you evaluate the cost of one system collapse to an economy, is unbelievable. It's damaging.
We have one report coming up now from Umuahia. Let's get to see that.
Umuahia before now is believed to be predominantly occupied by civil servants. But due to the challenging times the country is facing, the scenario has changed. Even civil servants are now setting up small-scale businesses to make ends meet. An average Abian hustles to meet up his daily needs and that of his family, especially with the current economic situation today, which has led to the proliferation of shops in the state capital. The major challenge posing these small and medium-scale businesses in the state is constant power outages and its minimal duration when the service is provided.
In this part of the country, sometimes you don't have power throughout the day. Sometimes you have 2 hours, sometimes 4 hours, and sometimes 2-3 days you don't have any power. So how are you going to run the business without the power?
At this level of national development, we should have outgrown this. But it's quite unfortunate that every time, from time to time, our grid fails, and it fails totally. It is unfortunate. It totally negatively affects productivity.
Those in small and medium-scale businesses lament the buying of premium motor spirit and diesel to run their generating six usually gulp their profits.
It's affecting us seriously. Why we are paying the higher rent? They call it commercial payment. We do pay commercial payment, which is higher every month, whether you use the light or not.
One, about 8 to 10 liters of fuel in a day, and we receive that. Then if you subtract the money you use for purchasing of fuel, you see that you go home with nothing.
In a week, they will give me light 2 times, maybe 25 minutes in a day.
If every city can generate their own electricity, if every part of the country can generate their own electricity and consume it, it will reduce the constant national power failure.
Expectation is that governments at all levels should rise up to the occasion to ameliorate the daunting challenges and dire consequences the situation might cause to workers in the private sectors. In Umuahia, Delight in Jinkonyi for
I'd like us to go straight to the other aspect of it, as so many suggestions have been made on how to pull through the darkness, metaphorically speaking of, and renewable energy. So, Prof, let me come to you. It would seem that a country like Nigeria should not be struggling with matters of renewable. As you did mention, Nigeria is at the Conference of Partners, and the main issues are climate change and how to make sure that renewable energy comes in here. How would you assess Nigeria's position in this now?
First of all, we live in equator. The picture is that this sun, so we don't need to, as against those who is in temperate region and they are harnessing it. But Madam raised something very, very critical. In 2016, give government a credit. They brought solar into as a mainstream investment. And we got the 14 PPAs
Yes.
to generate 1,250 megawatts by 2030 to the national grid. We applauded that. And as Scott, you saw before 2015, Nigeria had the renewable energy efficiency policy. Because this issue of grid system too, Nigeria electricity is like urban biased, okay? And 80% of rural areas don't have access. So there was that thinking about having renewables off grid. And that was how REA came in, rural expediency, to, as a government agency, to go in to reach on the south that, you know, even the small and medium scale enterprises have ability to have it. So whether in the area of solar technology, solar home system, or mini grid and all that. So it becomes imperative, very necessary for us to diversify. That's as part of the solution driven. We don't need to, even though, let's begin to work on this degree system, interrogate the challenges and all that. It needs for us to diversify. Renewable is the end thing. The energy transition, we used to use, there was a time it was straw. From straw to wood. From wood to fossil fuel, that's coal and oil and gas. And now I've gone into renewables. That is the transition. So we should need to harness all the renewable energy sources. Why solar is very critical now? Because the technology is evolving. We have wind, we have biomass, we have hydro, green hydrogen, but we have, in terms of accessibility and technology, it is solar. And that's why government is investing. And as well as we have also looked at the challenges of this renewable. We had, 2 years ago, we had the research study, the alliance with the World Economic Forum. I had the research study that was published. I'm going to show you the publication. And we told Nigeria how we can invest in renewable, even they track what they call the risk analysis, and we challenged the government that we submitted that to the government. So, in other words, what we are doing here right now is that we should begin to, the renewable energy is the end thing. Even though we cannot, even at Glasgow at COP26, we brought in natural gas as a traditional fuel, okay? And because we cannot aid our sustainable development with renewable, given the fact that we're still, technology is still evolving. That's what we brought natural gas right now. So natural gas is part of the renewable, part of the clean energy narrative we're talking about. So, Cyril, it's important that even though we are looking at the on-grid, this off-grid, as represented by renewables, is a way of ensuring that rural communities have access to energy, to power small and medium-scale enterprises, okay? Because this on-grid is for industrial setup in the rural and urban areas, so to speak. So it is the narrative now is that renewable energy should be in the forefront. That's why I applaud what the National Assembly is doing. The National Assembly has gone ahead to set up a committee on renewable energy, to tell you the importance of renewable energy. So I look forward to even to have, beyond the Electricity Act, We're going to have a renewable energy act like what's obtainable in Ghana, in Rwanda, and all that, where you have a renewable act that will bring to fore in terms of investments, you know. The climate finance we're talking about is mainly from for renewable renewable assets, so to speak. So it's important that you read this issue. So renewable energy is the end thing, and government should deepen, you know, investment. Government should not play; should be active as what they did in the oil and gas. They should be in the forefront into ensuring that there's a mainstream investment. They have started it. You know, there's a mainstream investment in renewable energy. And energy efficiency. Remember, energy efficiency is an aspect of energy, so to speak. Yeah.
Right, the phones are already active, and we have our first caller tonight, Umar Anachi, calling in from Birnin Kabi. Hello, Umar. Are you there, Umar?
Hello.
Hello, Umar Anachi.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening. Go right ahead.
Yes, my name is Umar Anachi, your usual caller. You see, they say, ask them, don't just happen. They are caused. Likewise, our national grid collapsed. Don't just happen. It is, they are caused. They are causes that lead to national grid collapse. Thank God to Dangote, he generated his power. He did not rely on national grid. It would have been a different thing altogether. But still, when you ask them question, is there any internal sabotage, they quickly answer no. So this one, it seems as if there are internal sabotage. And this was my own assertion, because the lady testified that there is no proper coordination between the TCN and transmission, between generation and transmission, and between transmission and distribution. There is no proper coordination.
Really?
What was this lack of proper coordination can lead to anything. I'm thinking of Mr. President to do the right thing by putting the right people in the right places. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you, Mr. Silva.
Well, thank you very much, Umar Anachi. Your consistency on calling in for, each time we hold such discussions, but would let both the GM Material Control and Stores and the GM Monitoring and Evaluation of the TCN respond to what you have just said.
Yes, I want to respond to what he has said, because he is very specific on what I said presently. Please, I want you to understand that the coordination we are talking about is the relay coordination for the three stakeholders. It's not that the activity, we normally have meetings with them. We have meetings with the distribution via our regional offices. We have meetings with the generation. What we are saying is that in the then PHCN, we normally have a standard protection. I'm talking technically now. I'm not talking about discussing with this or discussing with that. We normally have meetings. We call it intersectorial meetings. We hold those meetings via our regional offices. Well, I want you to understand what I'm saying is the technical aspect of coordination, protection, standard protection. The relays are what views your line. If a line trips now, there must be an indication. It will tell you what is the root cause, whether it's earth fault, whether it's overcurrent. From the relay indication, you have an idea of what is happening. And most of our relays will even give you the kilometer range where that thing happened. So please note that it's not interpersonal relationship. It is basically the technical aspect of it. We are advocating for that, and the regulators have agreed that there is need for that firming up of the protection, where everybody will be present. They will be present as a witness to get these things done. I hope I've communicated with you, communicated properly to you. Thank you.
Right. Yes.
The only thing I will add is that
okay, maybe just before you come in, let's get this other call in. Usman Mahmuda calling from Sokoto. Oh, well, we lost the call, so go ahead. Right. So, Engineer Adamu,
yes,
please go ahead.
what I just want to add is that, you know, why we quickly said there is no insider is because there is nobody, a staff of TCN, that will go and, you know, foul the line or remove member towers or vandalize the line. But quite okay, there are acts that everybody knows that is sabotage. For example, the 16 towers that were brought down in Bayelsa, you know, on Ahoda, Yanagwa. When on inspection, you find that not a single member was like carted away, but they were all like loosed, and so that the tower become very weak, and you know, by the time there is a small wind, you know, it will just fall. So that one is actually an act of sabotage. Or where improvised explosive devices are used to blow up a tower. You don't expect to say a transmission staff will now go and bomb the towers or put something to explode and bring them down, while we know that is from where we get our salary, you know. So, you know, we have to think that, you know, the transmission staff also are responsible staff, and we love our country, and we love our jobs, and we love the company. So, but definitely there are saboteurs, and that is why, you know, at this juncture, when the Office of the National Security Advisor comes in, you know, to assist TCN, you know, he really understood what is going on. From the first time this year, when this vandalization started, you know, this year we had a lot of vandalism cases. So from the first time, the National Security Advisor took interest. He put a high-powered committee, which, you know, discussed, and a report was given to him. And from that time, he took interest. And to the extent now that we are talking of even deployment of drones to guard our, you know, transmission lines, and a lot is being done, because they know. They realize that, you know, there are some aspects of what is going on that is purely, you know, sabotage to the country.
Yes, let me add this. We are talking about political risk now. Politicians are part of the problem. When you hit up the polity within your area, and you bring in, let's use Niger Delta, for instance. You see, we're in Nigeria. You know, you are now bringing all these militants and all that to be in the forefront. What do you expect? You are bringing them up. So it's a political risk. It's not need to be interrogated. It's not something you treat it. It's unheard of. The way, look at 2027 is coming up now. Everybody is forming a group and trying to hit up the polity. And look, national infrastructure, I mean, it's been affected because somebody has a political interest or another. It's something that we need to, it's something that we need to address appropriately. Please.
Right. Back to the phone lines. We have Abubakar calling in from Kaduna. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Siri. Good evening.
Do we still have Abubakar on the line?
Yes.
Right. Abubakar, here's your chance to air your views on the subject matter.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Cyril.
Yes, if you could just speak up a little bit.
You said?
Right, just speak a little bit louder so we can hear you.
Okay, I would like to contribute my own quota.
Right, go ahead.
In respect of what you are discussing. You see, Mr. Cyril, we in this country, we have to be realistic in what is going on. Hello? Because we Nigerians, we are good in grammar, but the implementation of the so-called power sector, it's ridiculous. We know no foreigner will come and fix it. We are the one to fix our own power. So let's do the needful, please. We should stop deceiving Nigerians. Thank you.
Right, that's it. Straightforward, right? Okay. Yes, sir. So far, suggestions have been made. An interesting aspect of this is, I still like to go back to it, and some have said, do away with the national grid. Is that an alternative?
I think a lot of people that are suggesting that the grid should be, or regions should be given the authority to generate their power, distribute their power. They are just saying that if at the center transmission is not able to manage the current load that is being generated, they have limitations in evacuation of the power. Why hold an entire area to ransom when they can on their own generate their power, transmit their power, and then sell their power? And if that practice is encouraged, it will go a long way in freeing the problems of transmission at the moment, and then also making adequate alternative power available, especially through the use of renewable energy. Renewable energy in areas where there is abundant sun, there is abundant wind, there is abundant water, that is from the lakes, and then also you have a lot of waste. Those potentials can be tapped, can be harnessed to serve an alternative source of reliable power supply.
Okay, I'll just ask you to hold on a while. I'll go to the phones. Collins from Adama. Hello, Collins.
Yeah,
Thank you for staying on.
Good evening, Cyril. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me very well.
Yes, sure, we can. Go ahead.
Right. Thank you so much. It's an opportunity to talk to you again. I spoke to you, I think that should be like almost 17 years back when you were doing a program with the late Thomas Sule. Right. Sir, I want to say something, and I want us to look at something. You know, the national grid has been produced in 1951 to 2024. That is about 72 years ago. A lot of installation has been made, and it's time to be corrected. And with only 23 distributions and transmissions line. Now, if you look at 73 years later, we have a total collapse of the national grids about 838 times. And with the return of democracy, we have about 722 times. So between 2015 to 2024, the national grid has collapsed 104 times, 93 times during the Buhari regimes, and about 11 times during the present dispensations. Now, sir, if we look at it, 1951 to 2022, over 43 trillion has been alleged to be spent on maintenance and upgrading of the national and maintenance of our national grid. Now, sir, recently that we have the total collapse, like we that were living in Adamawa State within the Northeast, you can't imagine wherever we're having the temperature zone of about sometimes from 35 degrees Celsius to about 45 degrees Celsius. There's no place we can get anything cold apart from this only way we are from this. Now, after the restore of the power, allegedly, or what we read over the news, about 29 billion has been spent in restoring this place. And now started to look at more money that has been injected, more collapse that is going. Now, if you look at it, now, somebody asked about questions that about corruptions, that there's no corruption. Sir, I can tell you that the Mandela project, the EFCC, the former minister Salim Mama, about 33 billion, what has been done. Recently now, just either today or yesterday, the recent EFCC chairman made a pronouncement that if you see, I quote him verbatim and I stand to be corrected, that if you see the corruption that is going on in the power sectors, Nigeria will shed tears. Because contractors are given to come up with things that are of quality level, but they come with a low quality. Sasira, I have a fluorescent bulb that my father bought from China in 1980. It's still working till today. It's still working till today. China does not send a substandard product to the US, does not send it to Dubai, but in Nigeria, we have a lot of substandard. A little cable in your home, ordinary heater, can make the transformer to trigger. Now, I will now question, what is the standard organization of Nigeria doing? What are they doing? Sir, you cannot compare the heater you used, like from 1980, and that one of today. You buy it, I mean, it's Nigeria becomes a dumping ground. Now, we are quoting Rwanda, we are quoting Tanzania, that we should go and learn from them, and yet we are the giant of Africa. We are growing up. I started watching as far as 1996, when I was within the Kafanchan area, Syria. Now, and today I'm 45 years old, and these are my fathers, I'm watching them. I mean, you are bringing solutions, and we know these things are not right. Now, I will leave you with these words. Any country that you take out their energy, you collapse the economy of that country. And I want you to look at this holistically. Power is gone. We cannot afford diesel. These are part of the energy. How can we survive?
Right.
How can the nation survive? How do we grow? We don't have stable power. We cannot afford even the NLTC. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Collins. Some comprehensive statistics you gave out there.
Yeah.
But, well, Prof, perhaps you'd like to take a first shot and respond how you view Collins' contribution.
Collins, thank you so much. That data, we need that data. Data is the fulcrum. Data is the engine room. Collins, honestly, get to Cyril and let's have that. Even though we'll give you a patent, you have your, what do you call it, intellectual property. But we need that data. Honestly, we share with you the concerns and the sentiments you've raised. But one day begins the story. You know, I think this is a new beginning for us. I look forward to having an integrated system. We're going to have a blend of, we're not dispensing on grid, but the renewables must be brought in in the forefront right now. We need to do that. And also, I believe in the regional integration. Nigeria had the geopolitical zone, 6 of them. If we can have an integrated system, like I said earlier, in Europe, 27-country Europe, if there's outage in Netherlands, Belgium is there to shore it up. So when you have an integration, now of course there's the blend of renewables and non-renewables. That's what they're using right now. And so it's possible. Like I said, let's be intentional about it. If we want to move forward, let's say of a truth, let's be intentional. And I believe that Nigeria has a demography, 220 million people, and everybody's coming. Nigeria is a destination. Even as they're discussing the COP29 now, one of the things we're talking about energy transition, the climate finance. So we should harness that opportunity. Demography, the population will have as an opportunity for us. So let's not lament again. We are past the stage of lamentation. Let's be proactive. And so it's a good news for us with time.
But just before you come in, let's get this call in. Abdurrahman, I believe. Abdurrahman from Maitama, Abuja.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Yes, go ahead, please.
This morning.
Hello, good morning, Terry.
Yes, hello, go ahead.
Are you with me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Nice program on the respect of power. In a situation whereby we are in a democratic dispensation, 21st days of democratic dispensation, and we still talking about the power after all the billions of naira that we sink into the power, and we are giving Benin, Niger, and Ghana power to sustain their industry and care of their people with our own energy, which we are complaining. One thing I'm going to say, we always appoint military and call them in a democratic dispensation and call them military dictatorship. If we can recall during military era, I don't think Nigeria is going to be without light in 2-3 hours. Everything is perfect, and the maintenance of anything that happens with the machines that is bringing power or the wires that they have installed, if there is any problem with it, instantly they went and take care of it. What is the reason why in a democratic dispensation that the government promised to the Nigerians during their campaign time, we cannot be able to get it? Tangible promises on ground. Okay. That is the reason why if you go around within the FCT, there is a street light that the government puts. But most of the places now, if you go around, you find solar systems. The solar that is there, there is no supervision, there is no maintenance. Scavengers break them down and remove them and go and sell them. And there is nobody take responsibility in the federal capital of Nigeria. And we are here sitting down talking about power in Nigeria. Yes. There is a one tree cannot make a forest. It's a collective responsibility of the Nigerian people to constantly criticizing the government with the constructive criticism. Any government that is not serious in a democratic dispensation, we that put the government in power, we need to tell them the truth. And in a situation whereby the corruption has taken over every crony, not only the power, the fuel situation that we found ourselves, we've been crying, and the government make a promise to Nigerian people that if they remove the subsidy, everything is going to be okay. But now, where are we? The price is more than 1,000 naira.
Okay.
So my last comment is prayer to Nigerians and let Nigerians wake up and make sure they elect the good leaders that they can be able to take care of their needs in democratic dispensation. Keep doing what you are doing and do it very well. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Abdurrahman from Itama. I appreciate you. Yes, let's go back. And, well, he's also alluded to the amount of money that has gone into the power sector, and, of course, introduced another, even where you have solar-powered street lighting. People are bringing them down. And so it reflects still on the question of vandalism that is also affecting those high-tension towers all over the country.
Yes, I think the caller from Adamawa, who...
Collins, yes.
Yeah, from Adamawa, who is complaining about the state of agony in Adamawa that is caused by the system collapse. That's just one reaction. He probably is awake to watch this program, but it is much more than that. And that's one state. And to think that 17 states are going through the same agonizing situation as we speak means that we should know the situation calls for an alternative. If in Adamawa, the governor of Adamawa State, I'm just giving an example, was able on his own to generate 20 megawatts of power from solar that is in abundance in Adamawa, and that is constant. It is his entire, it falls within his jurisdiction to use that 20 megawatts. Now, whether the national grid collapsed, he will still have his own 20 megawatts to serve his people. They won't be in darkness. So the lesson is not far-fetched, and is also related to the caller from the last caller.
Yes, from Abuja here, Maitama in Abuja.
The last caller from Abuja. If FCT generates its own independent power through solar, and then it can generate, for the size of Abuja, 200 megawatts of power from solar. And the FCT minister has the full control of that 200 megawatts of power. And then he's selling his own power to his own customers in their own areas. That 200 megawatts of power, whether the grid collapses, he still has control over 200 megawatts of power. 200 megawatts of power for Abuja, it means the city is powered already. So, assuming that 17 states in the country from northern Nigeria, each state governor generates his own 20 megawatts, it will make a difference. There won't be blackout. It is now time for governors, not only in northern Nigeria, because what happened in northern Nigeria can happen to any other region. Therefore, it's a wake-up call for state governors who have abundant resources to really address the issue of adequate power or alternative power supply through renewable energy, waste, hydro, mini and hydro, and then wind, and then biofuel. They can actually help the federal government, support the federal government to provide an alternative power and then decongest the grid. If the grid is decongested, there won't be grid collapse. Yes. There won't be grid instability. So it's important for state governors to really think twice about this incident If it is happening in northern Nigeria now, it will happen in southern or eastern Nigeria. It is the same. So the good thing that we have at the moment is that if they decide, if they don't even have, if state governments don't even have the funds, international finance is available that supports, because of the principle of energy transition, that supports renewable energy projects, and then the funds are there. And once the project, the renewable energy project, for instance, if it is solar, if it is wind, if it is mini hydro or hydro, the fund is there. Talking about Mambila hydropower project that one of them was talking about in Taraba State. The federal government, for goodness sake, has tried to ensure that that project eventually took off and then was commissioned. They've done everything that they need to do. Financing, they secured a loan from People's Republic of China. The conditions that will access the loan is very, very available and easy for state governments to achieve. So if for any reason the federal government is having handicaps in continuing with the execution of Mambila hydroelectric power project that will power the entire northern Nigeria, what will the 19 state governors from the north, what will they be doing? Posterity will not forgive anyone to allow Mambila hydroelectric power project to be abandoned and then to keep the entire northern Nigeria in darkness. People are dying. People have no source of livelihood because a lot of people, 90% or 95% of people depend on energy. They depend on that power. So because there is blackout now, they are not in business.
All right.
The last few... I want to share good news for us.
Right.
There are plans on ground now with respect to Presidential Villa to power Presidential Villa and its environs with 40 megawatts of solar. That's Presidential Villa.
Absolutely.
So that shows the reality of diversification. If the seat of government is planning to generate 40 megawatts of solar and its environment, so what are we talking about? So honestly speaking, let's not, entrenched system, have always been a constraining factor. You want to move away from, let's begin to, we're not quarreling with oil and gas, but the renewables. So that shows that the reality of diversification, we need to bring the total mix, bring it in a box, whether it's green hydrogen, biomass, and all that. Like why we're talking about solar now, because the technology is there and it's evolving. So thank you.
Well, with just a few minutes left on this program, we would like to go back to the question of the repair, restoration work that is going on in a number of places, and we'll turn to you to just once again update us on how far work has gone and what to expect. And these are talking about the Shiroro Mando axis, Jeba transmission substation, a second Guaju, transmission line, and all those, just as we wind down.
Now, with regards to the second Ogwaji line, just before even early evening today, I was in contact with the people that are working there, and the work has been completed on the second line. It's just to energize it. So, and we are hoping that they are just, after you finish that kind of a job, you have to now go back again and just check it again properly before you energize. But I think we are just, by tomorrow, we will be just talking of energization of that line. So they're just going to be going over the nitty-gritty of the energization of the line. But as far as the job is concerned, they have finished it. So that one, very soon it will come up, and then at least we are now going to get 2 times what we are getting through that corridor. You know, we will get it, so there's going to be an improvement from that side. With regard to the Shiroro Mando line, already we know that the place has been accessed and the military are assisting, and the work is ongoing there also. And very soon also we will get over that, because we have the towers already. We have towers available, so it's just the workmanship, you know, and because the base of the towers are already, you know, affected, so we need to do some little, you know, concrete civil work, and then it has to cure, and then we just rebuild it. And another thing I want to also ensure to tell you is that part of the things TCN is doing is that we have these emergency restoration systems. These are towers, emergency towers, you know, mobile, that we have. Right now we have 2 in Lagos. When we procure them, we tested them, we found that they can be very useful. Wherever we have collapse, it's just a matter of within some few hours we can just erect them, and then we can divert the line, and then pending when the collapsed one, you know, is repaired and reconstructed, then we can now bring it back. The happy thing, the news is that the FEC has approved for the procurement of 30 number, that restoration, 15 330 kV and 15 132 kV. Already the contract has been awarded, and we're just waiting for the contractor now to supply. When we have such numbers, you know, we are not envisaging that we should be having collapse, you know, but at least part of the proactive nature is that at least when this thing happens now, it will not take days before we can reconstruct, and we are going to keep them in all our 10 regions, so that whenever anything happens like that, we can quickly mobilize and restore back.
Well, and it is on that optimistic note we must leave this conversation and thank our guests who have so availed us of their knowledge and expertise in the matter at hand. I'd like to say a big thank you to Engineer Abdul Qadir Ugwarab Adamu, General Manager, Material Control and Stores, Transmission Company of Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
And we say thank you to Engineer Jane Neka Okemini, General Manager, Monitoring and Evaluation, TCN, Transmission Company of Nigeria as well. Thank you so much. And Professor Magnus Onoha, President, Governing Council, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you so very much, Ajay Idris Mohammed, former Managing Director, CEO of Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, and now a consultant on power infrastructure. We thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you, Cyril.
Right. And thank you also for those who called in and joined in the conversation. We appreciate your contributions to the national discourse. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.